Alors, bonsoir tout le monde.
Good
Bienvenue à
evening,
cette
everyone.
réunion
Welcome to
ordinaire du Conseil
the
en ce
regular
15
public meeting
octobre
held October 15,
2024.
2024.
Sans plus tarder, la ville de
Without
Dieppe
further ado, the city of
reconnaît
Dieppe recognizes
que
that
la terre sur
the
laquelle
land
elle
on
poursuit
which
ses
it
activités
operates
fait partie du
is part of
territoire
the unceded
ancestral
traditional
traditionnel
territory
des
of
non,
the
c'est-à-dire traditionnel non cédé des
traditional
Mi'kmaq.
territory, unceded traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq.
Ayons la sérénité
Colleagues,
d'accepter les
let's
choses
have the
que nous ne
serenity
pouvons
to accept the
changer,
things we cannot
le
change,
courage de
the
changer
courage
les
to
choses
change
que
the
l'on peut
things we can,
et la
and the
sagesse de
wisdom
connaître la
to
différence.
know the difference.
Bonsoir et
Good
bienvenue à
evening,
tous.
everyone, and welcome.
Avant d'aller plus loin, j'ai
Before
une autre chose
going any
à
further, I
annoncer.
have one
Euh,
more
au
announcement
mois
to
de,
make.
En ce mois de septembre,
In
euh,
this
une personne qu'on
last
connaît
month of
bien, qu'on apprécie
September,
bien, Marc Melançon, a
someone who you know
remporté
well,
le
Mark
Thomas
Melançon,
L.
won
Everett,
the Thomas L. Everett
un prix d'excellence
Award of Excellence
de l'Association des
from the
administrateurs municipaux du
Association of
Nouveau-Brunswick.
Municipal Administrators of New
Et
Brunswick.
ce prix rend
This award
hommage à un administrateur
recognizes an administrator
qui a fait ses preuves
who has
et continue à faire ses preuves
earned his
à un
way
niveau,
and continues to make his way
très
to
élevé
a
de
very high level
dévouement
of excellent
et le
devotion
félicite.
and success,
Il reconnaît,
and also recognizes
il reconnaît,
this award
comme une personne
recognizes him
qui
as someone
s'est distinguée par son
who has
engagement,
distinguished himself
l'excellence de
by his
de
commitment,
sa gestion,
the
sa
high
capacité
level of management
d'innovation
skills,
et
innovation capacity,
l'exemplarité
and
et
the
l'intégrité
creativity, as
et
well
le
as the
respect
integrity
dont il
and
fait
respect
preuve dans ses
he
décisions
shows
et dans ses
in
actes.
his decision making and
Le
in
leadership,
his behavior.
dévouement,
His leadership and
passion,
devotion,
dynamisme
passion,
et
dynamic
la
nature,
droiture de Marc
and
ont fait
the honesty of
ont
Mark
fait euh,
all
le,
make Mark
le
the
récipiendaire,
award winner
de ce prix.
of this
Marc travaille à la ville
award.
de Dieppe
Mark
depuis
works for the city of Dieppe
1996 et
since
est le directeur
1996
général
and is
depuis
the
janvier
executive director
2007.
since
Et
2007.
évidemment,
And
on veut
clearly,
nous présenter toutes nos
we
félicitations
wish to extend our
on apprécie le travail
congratulations to
qu'il fait à
him
Dieppe. Merci.
and all the work that he does every day, day in and day out.
C'est beau.
Okay?
Alors, c'est d'ailleurs, on n'a pas trouvé une meilleure personne pour
So
lire
we haven't
la
could
félicitation.
have found a better person to read
On
this,
peut se permettre.
but with the money we have on hand is all we were able to do.
C'est ça, c'est le temps des budgets. Faut en
It's
parler.
budget time.
Alors, j'appelle la réunion à
And
l'ordre
so I call this meeting to
et
order,
je vois que nous avons un
and I
quorum
see that we have
et que
quorum
nous pouvons procéder.
and
Est-ce
that
qu'il y a
we
des
can
déclarations de
continue on. Are there
conflit
any
par les
declarations
membres
of
du
conflicts
Conseil?
of interest by members of council?
Je ne vois aucune main se lever.
I see no hands
Alors,
being
nous
raised.
allons continuer
Let us now move on
pour l'adoption
to
de
the
l'ordre du jour
adoption of tonight's agenda.
proposé par le
Moved by
conseiller
Councillor
Thibodeau,
Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor
sur la
Lantang
question.
on the question.
Aucune question.
There
Alors,
being
tous ceux en
none,
faveur de
all those
l'adoption
in
de l'ordre du
favor
jour, s'il vous
of
plaît,
adopting the
levez
agenda
la main.
will say aye.
Avis contraire par un non.
Against, nay.
Alors, l'ordre du jour est accepté.
It is carried.
Et nous allons débuter avec les
And
présentations,
let's
requêtes
move
ou
on to
pétitions
presentations, inquiries, and petitions.
publiques.
Inquiries
Dans notre vaste public,
and in our
je
question
vois
by
rien.
members of the public, I don't see anyone. We haven't received anything either, Your Worship. No communiques. Thank you.
Alors, ça va nous amener
This brings us now to fairly quickly
aux demandes de renseignements des membres du conseil
inquiries by council members
de notre sergent
by,
Hébert.
and we welcome
On
Sergeant
souhaite
Hébert,
la bienvenue pour
to whom we say welcome, I think for her third visit. to us tonight, and she will be telling us what's happening in the community. Welcome once again. Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening to all of you. My report for this evening is to tell you and the city of Dieppe that the community policing services have given information sessions how to defuse situations. These information sessions were given to the three communities. 36 partners participated and attended. These are community partners, businesses, and other agencies all around the greater Moncton area. On October 1st, the community police participated with the city of Dieppe to celebrate the National Seniors Day. Efforts were concentrated on making seniors aware of fraud. Following many complaints by the public about noisy vehicles that were found at the shopping center, we cooperated with the business people at the shopping center, and we came up with an action plan which came up with banning parking under an act which forbids trespass. So we hope that this will prevent this from happening in the future. And I also want to inform you that patrols in school zones continue during school hours to ensure the safety of children. With regard to the crime reduction group, many files are being investigated by this force and the integrated task force, as well as drug possession and other infractions dealing with property crimes. Today, 11 people out of 15 who are considered as people of concern in the Shediac area have been imprisoned. And nothing to tell you about general inquiries. And to conclude, with regard to patrols, on October 6th, police officers came across a road accident and a firearm was seen in a vehicle. After police intervened, an individual showed this firearm to a police officer and fled. There was a police officer who then found this individual and arrested this person. The individual is a man of 29 years of age from the Moncton region, will remain in prison until October 25th after appearing in court, and then he will appear in court at that time again. And my last comment is a collision happened with an electric bicycle. It didn't happen in the Dieppe area, but I said that it would be important to remind the public that electric bicycles go very quickly and can be dangerous for drivers as well. So be on the alert when you are on the roads. That's it for me. Thank you. Members of council, have you any questions? Councillor Genet. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for being here this evening. And so students from the community college contacted me to tell me about the dog bone on the Dieppe Boulevard in the Round Point. In the morning, it's very difficult to go through there around 8 o'clock in the morning when traffic is heavy because people are moving too quickly in the longer section and the straighter in this roundabout. So the people who come from Bouctouche, Shediac, wait for a long time. They're basically parked on the side of the road before they can move into traffic. The same thing for Harrisville Road. People have difficulty merging because the traffic is very quick. So I wonder if it's possible to patrol that area a little more often during the heavy traffic hours in the morning. And also, while I'm on the topic, and it was suggested to me that it might be a good idea to have speed bumps around there too. So I wonder if we could talk or think about speed bumps. I don't know about having speed bumps on a roundabout and how that would work.
Oui, il y a beaucoup de gens qui demandent les
A
speed
lot of
bumps.
people are asking for speed bumps. I'm wondering what the thinking might be about this. Thank you, Councillor. Your Worship, first of all, this is a provincial jurisdiction roadway. The roadways and the bridge for Harrisville and Dieppe Boulevards are provincial responsibilities. We could have the discussion, but don't forget that this is an exit from a highway. And so we see the challenges that we have for the dog bone, and it's repaired annually. I'm not saying it's a bad suggestion, but if the council wants to have the issue raised, we could ask the question. But the speed bump wouldn't necessarily be at the exit of the ramp of the dog bone, because people want to move more quickly than the speed limit. Well, the message gets across because the RCMP would be there more often. We see this on Marais or on Champlain Boulevard, and we'd like them to be a little more present at various spots in the city. And when they're present in various locations in the city, there's a message that goes out, and people, they get into the habit. Noted. Councillor Turgeon, yes, I just want to say what you'll be doing at Place Champlain with the bazous. It's under what regulation or law or act? I don't have the number of the act, but I could get back to you about that. We want to document this for me to be able to do a follow-up, and maybe we could exchange emails. Great, thank you very much. Councillor Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. Sergeant Hébert, twice now I've heard that the Irving gas station, which is just at the corner of Paul Street, has, and often they get visits that they don't want to have. People who are hanging around the store and are shoplifting inside of it. And it was reported to me that on many occasions, 3 times, they had to call the RCMP to come and get these people away from that corner. And even the night before last, it was reported to me that they took a fellow out of the store, but he had stolen something. And so when he was asked to pay for what he had taken, he said, "Don't touch me," and he left yelling. And so there's nothing. You can't approach these people. You can't touch them. And you have to call the RCMP, and then you have to wait for them to come. And so they mentioned that at 4 o'clock they called the RCMP, and they were supposed to have someone who was going to come and check. At 6 o'clock they called back because they still hadn't had an officer. And at 7 o'clock, I went to the Irving, and the guy said to me, "Look, it's 7 o'clock, and we haven't seen anyone from the RCMP here yet." And so, I don't know what you call them, the unhoused, they've left, but they were hanging around that gas station all evening, all day, in fact. And so the customers who come into the store for service are afraid of these individuals because they're sitting outside. So this is something that I wanted to relate to you, and maybe you could see to it. Do you have the date that happened? No, but I could certainly provide it to you. Yes, if possible. It was about a week ago. The manager reported it to me because he knows I'm a city councillor, but I said to him, "Look, I can't do anything. The only thing I can do is, at the time, I could call the RCMP and ask them to send someone as soon as possible. But when they got the message, there should be some follow-up to their call." It also happens with other local businesses because we see them more in Dieppe than previously. In any case, I simply wanted to report it to you. Thank you. I've noted it. And I would really like to have the date to understand what happened. And if ever it's possible for you to get back to me with the date, I will do the follow-up. That's weird because 2 weeks ago, exactly, I was on the side of the gas station and two individuals were sitting in the back and they were taking drugs. You know, it's not pleasant to see this. And they had all their drug paraphernalia around them. It's as if they were in their own homes and they were not in the least bit bothered. But this is the image of what people see when they come to these businesses. And they're going to avoid going there regularly. When I saw it myself, I said, holy, no one likes to see those types of things. Okay, we'll take the word meld. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Thank you. Questions by members of the public, a vast public who are present here this evening? No questions this evening? This brings us, there are no phone calls, nothing via the web. Let's move on now to the adoption of the minutes for the council meeting held on September 23rd, 2024. Councillor Turgeon-Roy moves, seconded by Councillor Brideau, that the minutes be adopted on the question. There being none, all those in favor of the resolution will say aye. Against, nay. The motion is carried, adopting the minutes for September 23rd as circulated. This brings us to item 11. Yes, that's right. This item is motions, memorandums, and nominations. 11.1, administration. Pardon me. Mr. Melançon, yes. Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry. Thank you for the kind words at the beginning of the meeting. And I want to say that when you get awards, the majority of the time is because we're surrounded by a great team. So I thank all the team around me and the employees of the city of Dieppe. We have the support of council members as well. So thank you for your continued support. And thank you for your very kind words once again. So this evening, our first file involves a bylaw which deals with winter parking. Last winter, we had brought forward a pilot project for winter parking, which was in effect after the first forecast of snowfall after December 21st, 2024. You will remember, those of you who want to remember, that we didn't have such a harsh winter. So we are going to continue the initiative again this year. This initiative was set up with the fire service, and we want to make sure that we have the proper tool. So we're going to do the same thing for 2024-2025, this upcoming winter season, and we need a directive from Council in order to give us the authority to bylaw officers to put this amendment into the winter parking bylaw. Thank you. So to read the resolution, Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. The Council temporarily suspend the enforcement of paragraph 5(1)J of bylaw C1 2024-1 until the first forecasted snowfall of 5 centimeters or more after December 1st, 2024. I so move, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Lantagne on the question. There being none, all those in favor of the resolution will say aye. Against, nay. The resolution is carried as presented. 11.1.2, adoption of policy A-10. Mr. Melançon. This is a revision to the policy for two items. The amount that is recovered if a check is returned, and there was no possibility of cashing that check. So we had an amount of $5 for each situation. and we want to be uniform with the surrounding cities, and we are changing an item in the policy. Rather than saying checks returned by the bank, we are calling it return payments. With the payment methods today, it's not just checks. We get many fewer checks, in fact. So these are the changes which will be in conformity with this policy. Thank you. To read this resolution, Councillor Janin.
Merci, Monsieur le
There you
Maire.
go. Thank you, Your Worship. The Council repeal Policy A-10 entitled Return Checks by the Bank and adopt the new Policy A-10 2024 entitled Return Payments. I so move. Moved by Councillor Janin, seconded by Councillor Turgeon-Roy on the question. There being none, all those in favor of the resolution will say aye. Against, nay. The resolution is carried as presented. Item 11.2.1, Planning and Development. 11.2.1, recommendation by the PAC on the amending tentative plan for the Dieppe Aviation Park subdivision. Mr. Melançon, following the recommendation of the PAC, we have all the elements in place now with the project that is being finalized with regard to extending Aviation Park subdivision. This accepts the tentative plan, which provides for the extension, the location and name of Aviation Avenue, and this naming is associated with the extension of the project. So this is part of the subdivision plan. Thank you. To read this resolution, Councillor Turgeon-Roy. Thank you, Your Worship. The Council accept the Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation relating to the acceptance of the Dieppe Aviation Park subdivision, amending tentative plan, which provides for the extension, location, and name of Aviation Avenue. I so move, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Turgeon-Roy, seconded by Councillor Rideau on the question. There being none, all those in favor of the resolution will say aye. Against, nay. The resolution is carried as presented. Now 11.2.2, recommendation, PAC recommendation, the amending tentative plan for the Miller-Murray subdivision. Mr. Melançon, this is a project being put forward at the corner of Keith and Chartersville roads. There is no change with regard to zoning. It had been assessed by staff and that there was no need for lands for public purposes in that area. So 8% of the market value of the subdivision lands. One quick correction, instead of being the $12,902.06, the amount being requested is $20,960 as specified in the report. So it was a keyboard mistake, a typing mistake. Yes, it shows that I got that award in quite a long time ago. So this is the staff recommendation to take this amount, which represents 8% of the market value of the subdivision lands. This is the recommendation that the staff has put forward. $20,960. Thank you. To read the resolution, Councillor Lantagne. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm too young. I'm not even sure what a typewriter is. That Council accept the Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation relating to the acceptance of the Miller-Murray subdivision amending tentative plan, and further accept that the developer pay the amount of $20,960 in lieu of lands for public purposes, which represents 8% of the market value of said subdivision lands. I so move. Moved by Councillor Lantagne, seconded by Councillor Janin on the question. On the question, Councillor Godbout. Yes. A point of clarification, a question. In the minutes of August 21st, when we talked about the proposal, we don't say that the decision of the committee was unanimous or not. Normally, it's clarified in the minutes if it was a unanimous decision or not. Was there opposition to this proposal? Perhaps your colleague was there as well? In my opinion, there was no opposition put forward. No, but it doesn't say unanimous as we normally see, so I just wanted to clarify. It's what I presumed as well. It's a good question. I can't confirm whether it was unanimous, but according to conversations I had with my manager, there were no concerns about this proposal. And I'm asking the question because it seemed that there were some comments in the minutes, there were some questions by members of the PAC with regard to if in the future there would be a round point there, if we had an opportunity to do that, because it's fairly narrow there. I wondered what the answer was there. I wondered if you had any answers about putting a roundabout. Clearly, the engineering service had been consulted. There were no concerns raised by them with regard to the proposed subdivision. But you have to take into consideration here, there is no change in the right-of-way of the street, and there should be enough lands to accommodate any future roundabout. But I don't want to go too far into that. I might ask my colleague Marc-André to answer, but at this point I can confirm that there were no issues raised by engineering, any concerns related to that. Mr. Cormier, any comments? To confirm that we're talking about Pascal Chartersville? We made preliminary assessments with an external consultant. We got an initial drawing, and it shows that if we had to get any further lands, it would be fairly minimal. The criteria would be that the bus would be able to go around. The circle was big enough. But according to the plans that I saw, and I'm not always the one who revises these plans, I don't think that the buildings are going to affect the localization or what we wanted to do there. Thank you. Perhaps the CAO could communicate with you once we get the results of the study, and maybe we could suggest that it comes back to us. Yes, I've noted that. All those in favor of this resolution, before I forget to do so, will say aye. Against nay. It's carried unanimously by all members of council. Let's move on now. Pardon me, 11.2.3. Oh, yes, I thought I might have been skipping over something. Yes. So the PAC recommendation amendments regarding municipal development plan bylaw for Z9 2017 and zoning bylaw Z10 2021 -253 Acadie Avenue. Your Worship, this is recommended by the Planning Advisory Committee and supported by staff to accept the amendment. So various modalities will be part of this resolution. There are some elements that are part of the project that have been recommended by the PAC. This is here for your consideration and approval if you agree with it. So, to read the resolution, Councillor Brideau. Thank you. That Council accept the recommendation made by the Planning Advisory Committee on September 18, 2024 regarding an application to amend the Municipal Development Plan Z-9 2017 and Zoning Bylaw Z-10 2021 in order to accommodate a residential and commercial project. That Council further accept that this application be subject to Section 59 of the Community Planning Act as per the following terms and conditions. 1. That the lots identified under PIDs 70, 15, 96, 94, 00, 67, 31, 29, 00672774 and 00673160 be amalgamated prior to the granting of the development permit. And 2, that the northwest building facade cover a minimum of 67% of the lot frontage on the Normandy Street side instead of the 75% required by zoning bylaw Z-10 2021, and that the proposed project be carried in general conformity with the site plan dated April 25, 2024, entitled Site Plan 253 Acadie Avenue Project, Dieppe, New Brunswick. That Council proceed with the first and second readings of bylaws Z-9 2017-11 and Z-10 2021-12. I so move, Your Worship. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Rideau, seconded by Councillor Lantang. On the question.
Aucune question. Ceux qui sont en faveur de la
If there are no
résolution.
questions, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. It's carried as presented. Your Worship, just a point of information that I'd like to share with the public at this point, to share with Council. I'm very happy to confirm that we signed an agreement in principle with the YQM Festival developer. So we have an agreement in principle in place. It's been signed. It's a 5-year agreement. We are drafting the final agreement currently, but once the final agreement has been ready, both parties will have to sign. The agreement will be made public at the time at a future meeting here, if not the next meeting, then the following one. And just to disclose the public agreement, and it's just to put a stop to the rumors that yes, this festival will continue in Dieppe for the next 5 years, and the festival can now start announcing the artists that will be coming at the next festival. So just to put an end to the rumors. Oh, there's nothing worse than rumors. They bother everybody. So let's move on. We are now at item number 12. 12.1, Municipal Bylaws, Bylaw Z-9, 2017, relating to the Municipal Development Plan bylaw with regards to 253 Acadie Avenue, for first reading by title only.
Monsieur Thibodeau.
Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw Z-9 to 2017-11, a bylaw to amend a bylaw relating to the City of Dieppe Municipal Development Plan bylaw, and I so move a first reading by title only. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Brideau. On the question. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Against, nay. It's carried as presented. We will now move on to second reading. Yes, second reading of the binding law, the zoning bylaw for 253 Acadie Avenue. And to read the resolution, Councillor Thibodeau, a bylaw Z-9, 2017-11, a bylaw to amend a bylaw relating to the City of Dieppe Municipal Development Plan bylaw, and I so move second reading by title only. Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Brideau. On the question. If not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye. Against, nay. It is bylaw. No, Z-9. No, Z-9, 2017-11 is carried in second reading by title only. We're now On item 12.2, it's a bylaw Z-10, 2021, amending the zoning bylaw, again, with regards to 253 Acadie Avenue. 253 Acadie Avenue, yes. I think I should get my glasses checked. For first reading, once again, by title only. Councillor, you're in good form there, Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw Z-10. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page.
On peut le passer.
Arrêté Z10 2021-12, arrêté
Bylaw Z-10 2021-12, a bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw, and I so move first reading by title only. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Yes, it's been moved and seconded. So all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Against, nay. It's carried as presented in first reading. We will now move on to the second reading. Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you. Bylaw Z-10, 2021-12, a bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw, and I so move its second reading by title only. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Thibodeau, once again, seconded by Councillor Jeannin. On the question, if there are no questions, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Against, nay. It's carried as presented. Which brings us to 12.3, Bylaw C-2, 2024, relating to the collection and disposal of waste. Mr. Melanson? Yes, here we're just amending the old bylaw with certain changes that have been caused by the adding of circular material that is now one of the stakeholders in the process of the garbage collection. The version was amended, and there were parts that were copied into the document, so you have the full complete version here for first reading this evening. Thank you. Who would like to do first reading? Councillor Lantaigne, thank you. Bylaw C-2, 2024, a bylaw relating to the collection and disposal of waste in the City of Dieppe, and I'd like to propose its adoption in first reading only. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded on the question. No questions. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Against, nay. Bylaw C-2, 2024 has been read a first time. Let's move on to second reading. Once again, Councillor Lantaigne, Bylaw C-2, a bylaw relating to the collection and disposal of waste in the City of Dieppe, and I move its second reading by title only. Thank you. By title only. Once again, moved by Councillor Lantaigne, seconded by Councillor Jeannin. On the question, no questions. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Against, nay. So, second reading, it has been read a second time then, which brings us to item 13, notice of motions. Councillor Thibodeau, just to mention that it seems to me that at the last meeting, Councillor Godbout had presented a notice of motion. We don't see the motion here this evening. Yes, thank you. I was waiting to see if there were any other notices of motion before speaking out. Yes, we worked on a project with following the notice of motion introduced by Councillor Godbout. We have shared the information. The subject should be on the agenda with the notice of motion and the document attached. It should be on the next the agenda of the next meeting. And if Council adopts the notice of motion, then we will read them in November. So that's what we're planning. So it's moving forward. And We do have a project. It's on paper. Currently, we're working on it. Thank you. Notices of motion? No further notices of motion? So inquiries and announcements by members of council. We're going to start with Councillor Le Boutillier this evening. Good evening.
Bon, excusez-moi.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Your Worship. I did have a question for information, but you discussed it earlier. CAO, perhaps you could clarify the state of Gauvin Street. What is the situation? I'm very pleased to announce that we received word today that the roundabout is going to be open tomorrow morning. The section where the roundabout is located will be in full operation tomorrow morning. There are still some paving work that have to be done on Gauvin Street towards Pascal Street. That should take place in the next 5 to 10 days. But people who go in that direction can be relieved because people who go to school there in that area, and I'm very pleased to share that information with you. Thank you. That's all for me this evening. Thank you. Let's continue on. Councillor Jeannin.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Thank you, Worship. As several of you already know, I've been a singing teacher. I no longer teach singing. I'm a student in human resources, but I've had the chance to meet a lot of young people, a lot of Africans. I've learning a lot on their countries, on their challenges, and what they need when they come here. And I was happy to learn about what the Canadian media don't tell us about Africa. And I'm very, very grateful for meeting them. So I just like to mention that I would encourage you to give a hand to those international students that you see around town. Start a discussion with them, say hello, and they have life goes on so quickly that we don't even see each other sometimes, but they have shared with me how often the sense of family and the sense of community is very important for them. It's really important, and it's really nice to see. So I would really encourage you to help these students, give them a helping hand. And other than that, just have a great evening, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing this evening. Thank you. Have a great evening. Thank you. Councillor Thibodeau. It's same as Councillor Brideau. I have nothing this evening. Have a great evening. Councillor Turgeon-Roy. Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question. I'm just wondering about something. Some weeks ago, I had mentioned the redefining the zoning because it was an institutional zone, and this caused a lot of ambiguity in the last files that we had to look at. What are the steps? How do we proceed if we wanted to review that issue of the institutional zoning? Mr. Girard, thank you for your question. There are a number of elements that we are thinking about in our department, and this is certainly one of the points. The procedure, well, the urban growth strategy is being reviewed and developed currently. There will be public consultations in November and throughout the winter. Now, within the urban growth strategy, we can address a number of very important issues, such as the different uses, the issue of density, the question of integrating an urban form in some existing areas. So there are different things that we will need to be thinking about. Now, within the urban growth strategy, there will be different solutions that might be proposed, different recommendations. Now, the second thing that we're going to do over the next few years is the review of the municipal plan. Now, we think that the issue should be addressed, first of all, within the urban growth strategy, but then confirmed and validated through the review of the municipal plan and the review of the zoning bylaw. These are very, very complex documents, but they are extremely important to make sure we have the engagement of all stakeholders, of all residents. Of course, the whole issue of what should be allowed in an institutional zone is something that we will be looking at along with the consultants over the next few months, the next few years. We'd like the timelines to be a little shorter, but these are very complex issues, so it's going to have to take a number of years, unfortunately. I understand. I see exactly now where we will be able to do this, and we're lucky, in fact, that we have the municipal plan coming up as well. So that's great. Thank you. That answers my question. Thank you. Thank you. Is that all? Yes, it is. Thank you. Councillor Godbout. Thank you, Your Worship. I have 5 points that I'd like to share with you. First of all, I'll deal with the CRPA. You might have seen in the last 2 weeks that you've seen ads or news that are talking about an increase, a major increase to the cost of the RCMP over the next few years. The RCMP presented its budget to the CRPA based on the request from the municipalities. So the budget that was presented is a response to what's being requested, saying if you want these increased services, they are going to cost this. And it's a chance for us to really think about what we're getting for our money. In the past, it was one of the complaints. We'd ask for extra services, but we didn't know what we were paying for already. So we've done a lot of work within the CRPA to try and really understand the cost and the requested increases. Now, certain news agencies talked about increases of 29%. It's actually 19% in 2025 if we look at what's going to be asked for in 2025. In the long term, it'll be more, but for 2025, it's a 19% increase. Last week, when we received the documents at the CRPA, I sent you the presentations. They are going to come here on the 21st to present to Municipal Council at our standing committee meeting. So I would encourage you to read the document that I sent you in advance. If you have any questions, I am available to talk to you about it, but also you can talk to staff. I think it's important to ask questions to make sure you understand what is being requested and what are the additional services or different services that they are expecting. And this is not only all going to be done in 1 year, but it's a vision over 2 or 3 years. So there's going to be increases in 2025, but we're planning on increases in the following 2 years as well. So this should lead to good discussions, a lot of thinking from us, but I think the information is well presented. The CRPA did a good job to frame the RCMP and presented the information in such a way that is digestible, in my opinion. It's a lot of information, but it is digestible the way it's presented. But just through the comments around the table, what we see tonight is that everybody is asking for a greater presence of the RCMP, everybody is asking for more. So that has a cost. And citizens have to be aware that when we ask for extra services, new additional services, it's going to cost something. So it's going to cost something, but our only source of revenue is from citizens. So this is a reality and we're going to have to present it to citizens. I would encourage you to look through the material, the documentation, and at one point, as a council, in our discussions and in our discussions, not only here, but at the CRPA as well. And I've started introducing it and we're going to continue to work it onward in 2025 to asking, are we paying for the right things? In other words, do we need all of the all of the services the RCMP is offering, or can they be offered differently at a lesser cost? I think the RCMP did its possible to present it things to us with what they cost, but can we do certain things differently? Can we review our expectations? There's always a difference between safety and the feeling of safety. Sometimes we have safety, the safety of the residents, but we pay a lot of money for this feeling of safety. Is there another way to get this feeling of safety without it being offered by the RCMP? So these are questions we're going to have to ask because the costs are going to be very high, unless there are other parts of other governments that are going to give us some money. I mean, we have to look at all this. But these are choices that we're going to have to make, and they're going to be very interesting discussions. And of course, I need your thoughts on this so that I can bring your thoughts back to the RCMP to feed into the discussions there. So I'm just talking about this, sowing the seeds this evening so that we can discuss it at another time. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk about that was very encouraging when we were in Calgary at the meeting of the FCM, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, one of the resolutions was that the federal government address the issue of recruitment for the RCMP because they're short of staff. There are a number of communities that say they want to hire more RCMP, but they can't recruit them. So the whole issue of recruitment, and that's why we had surplus in some of our budget, because we didn't have enough staff to fill all of the positions. But the RCMP made a lot of effort and did a lot of work to make sure that they could address that issue. You're going to see in their budget, you're being asked for additional positions. But why approve for additional positions if we can't recruit staff to fill them? That's one of the questions that was asked. But they explained, and with reason, the 4 positive things that were to come to have a positive impact on recruitment in the community. And I'm going to share those with you. I think I might have gone beyond my 4 minutes, but please, they're just 4 quick points here, and then I'll be done. But since the beginning of the pandemic, the recruitment in the police profession has been very low. So it's been very difficult, and that remains a challenge. But they changed their internal policy at Kodiak, and they were able to release some of their staff members to go to fill other positions. In the past, they'd say, we're releasing people to go fill other positions, but we're not getting anybody back. But now they've changed. They've said, okay, we're going to release this person, but only when we get somebody to replace them. So, and the Kodiak region is considered one of the best assignments. It's well liked. It's well reputed, and Sergeant Hébert can confirm that. It's a really good experience. But after the Perryville-Taylor report, well, that created a certain uncertainty. Nobody was sure if we were going to continue with the RCMP. So that reduced the number of people who were ready to come to our region. So the fact that has been taken care of has the people are starting to become interested again. So there might be more people who are willing to come because they'll be confident that they'll be able to stay here. And last year in the whole province, especially in J Division, the head office in Fredericton, had hired about 50 people, major hiring. They went to get all of the recruits. Everybody available were hired. So we had trouble over the last 2 years to fill certain positions. So they created surplus in the budget. But over the next year, the RCMP is confident, and the RCMP as well is confident that in the methods being used by the RCMP currently, that we're going to be able to fill the vacant positions. So I just wanted to share that with you. It's a lot of information. We're going to have a presentation next week that'll add to what I just told you, and you'll have the people available if you have any questions to ask. And that was my report on the CRPA. Thank you. Councillor Lantagne. No, nothing this evening, except once again, I'd like to congratulate our CAO for the award that is certainly well-deserved, and it's a privilege to have him here in Dieppe. Congratulations. Thank you. We'll wait to hear the presentation from the RCMP, but having met with the chief superintendent recently, who announced, as a matter of fact, that she would be changing jobs shortly, but she will be able to find people to come here for us. And in the past, the RCMP would not return people to their region which might have been a bad idea on their part, but they changed that. And now we have a number of local people who want to come back here, who want to come back home and work in their home province with people they know and so on. So this is something that is that looking very good for the future. That said, I can't wait to hear the presentations, not only from the RCMP, but in all the sectors, to prepare for the different sectors of the community for the future, for next year, but for much further in the future, to make sure that we can plan the future of our wonderful community as well as possible. On that, have a good evening and see you soon.